Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Victor Ramirez had learned early on that architecture was about balance, straight lines and curves, open spaces and closed ones, form and function. At 40, he applied that philosophy not just to the designs he drew, but to the life he'd built in Austin, Texas. Married for 12 years to Elena, a meticulous and ambitious corporate accountant, Victor had always taken pride in having a solid marriage. They shared responsibilities, supported each other's careers, and raised their 9-year-old daughter, Sophia, a curious, smiling girl who'd inherited her mother's dark eyes and her father's calm. Victor had never been the jealous type. He trusted Elena completely, admired her independence, respected her space. But over the past 4 months, something had changed. Subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but growing like a crack in a foundation. Elena began mentioning a coworker named Damien more and more often. The IT manager at her company, Damien showed up in nearly every dinner conversation. Damien suggested a new tool to streamline reports. Damien had a funny take on the boss. Damien knew an incredible Thai restaurant. At first, Victor didn't think much of it. Coworkers became friends. It was normal. Then came the daily lunches. Elena had always eaten at her desk, bringing lunch from home to save time and money. Now, she left every day with Damien. When Victor casually asked about the change in routine, she replied with ease that it was good to get out of the office sometimes, that Damien knew the best spots. Victor nodded, but made a mental note. Then came the late hours. Elena started coming home later and later, always with the same explanation: an urgent project, quarter-end closing, an unexpected audit. And Damien was always involved in those projects. They worked together late into the night, solving complex problems that apparently only the two of them could handle. One night, Victor noticed Elena quietly laughing in the bedroom, the glow of her phone lighting up her face. It was nearly 11. He asked who she was talking to. She didn't look up from the screen. Damien. Just finishing up some work details. Victor felt a strange unease, a sensation he couldn't name. He tried to ignore it, but it lingered, growing stronger each day. Elena was different, more animated, more distracted, more distant. She smiled at her phone, but rarely smiled at him. She had energy for long conversations with Damien, but answered Victor with one-word replies when he tried to talk about her day. One Saturday morning over coffee, Victor decided to bring it up. He chose his words carefully, keeping his tone light and non-accusatory. He said he'd noticed she was spending a lot of time with Damien, and maybe it would be wise to create some professional distance, to keep healthy boundaries between work and personal life. Elena stopped chewing. She set her fork down with a sharp clink. She turned to him with an expression Victor had never seen before, cold, irritated, almost contemptuous. "You're serious right now, Victor?" She crossed her arms, her voice rising a notch. "Damien is my friend. My best friend at work. Am I not allowed to have friends? Do I need your permission to talk to people?" Victor tried to explain it wasn't about permission, it was about the amount of time, about how involved she seemed. Elena wouldn't let him finish. "This is insecurity, Victor. Pure insecurity. You're being controlling and you don't even realize it." She kept going, words spilling out fast and sharp. "Damien's gay, okay? Gay. So all this paranoia of yours is completely ridiculous. You're seeing things that aren't there because you have trust issues. Maybe you should work on that, because I'm not giving up my friendships because of your insecurities." Victor fell silent. Elena's intensity caught him completely off guard. She'd never spoken to him like this. He tried to process it. Was he being insecure? Was he projecting something that wasn't real? Elena stood up, grabbed her bag, and said she needed to clear her head. She walked out, slamming the door. Victor sat alone in the quiet kitchen, feeling small, confused, questioning himself. Maybe she was right. Maybe he was seeing problems where there were none. But over the next few days, Victor couldn't shake the feeling. He watched more closely. The constant messages. The secret smiles. The frequent outings. The growing distance between them. And something else bothered him, Elena's disproportionate reaction. If Damien was just a friend, even a gay one, as she claimed, why had she exploded like that? Why hadn't she simply calmed him down? The excessive defensiveness didn't make sense. Victor was an architect. He understood structures. And that reaction had all the signs of a compromised structure trying to hide a serious flaw. Victor made a decision. He wouldn't question himself anymore. He would seek the truth, objectively, professionally. He did quiet research and found Laura Chen, a private investigator with excellent online reviews, specializing in discreet surveillance and infidelity cases. He set up a meeting at a downtown cafe, far from his neighborhood. Laura was a 50-something Asian American woman with short hair, black-rimmed glasses, and a posture that inspired confidence. Victor explained the situation, gave her details about Elena and Damien, hours, car plates, workplaces. Laura listened carefully, taking notes on a tablet. "How long do you need?" Victor asked, his voice low. Laura thought for a moment. "For a case like this, with full surveillance, proper photographic documentation, and behavioral pattern verification, I'd say 10 business days. I need enough time to be certain about what's happening and gather solid evidence in case you need it for legal proceedings." Victor agreed. 10 days felt like an eternity, but he needed certainty. He signed the contract, paid the retainer, and left the cafe feeling a strange mix of fear and determination. The next 10 days were the longest of Victor's life. He kept up his normal routine, taking Sophia to school, working on his projects, having dinner with the family. But inside, he was burning. Every time Elena smiled at her phone felt like a knife. Every time she said she'd work late confirmed his suspicions. He tried to stay neutral, not show that anything was wrong. Elena noticed nothing. She kept her routine, leaving often, coming home late, always with reasonable explanations. Victor just watched and waited. On the 10th day, Laura called. Her voice was professional, but there was a note of empathy. "Victor, I have the full report. Can we meet?" They arranged to meet at the same cafe. Laura arrived with a plain brown folder. She set it down on the table between them and looked Victor in the eyes. "Before I open this, I need to warn you, the content is hard. I found definitive evidence." Victor felt his stomach tighten, but nodded for her to continue. Laura opened the folder. Inside were high-resolution printed photos, organized chronologically with date and time stamps. The first photo showed Elena and Damien leaving the office together, laughing, walking side by side. Nothing incriminating yet. Then came photos of them having lunch at a restaurant, sitting close, Damien touching Elena's hand on the table. Then photos in the company parking lot, the two leaning against Elena's car, talking intensely, faces inches apart. And then, the devastating ones. Elena and Damien arriving at a motel in San Marcos, about 50 miles from Austin. The motel's sign was clearly visible, Riverside Inn. Elena looking around before entering, as if checking if anyone saw her. Damien's hand on her waist. Then photos of them in the motel parking lot, leaning against Damien's car hood, close, exchanging clear signs of romantic affection. Laura turned more pages. There was a sequence showing them entering the motel room, the room number clearly visible, room 17. Timestamp, 2:37 p.m. Another photo, 2 hours and 15 minutes later, showed them leaving the same room. Elena was fixing her hair. Damien was buttoning his shirt. Victor couldn't look away. Laura continued. This happened on 3 separate occasions during the 10-day surveillance. Always at the same motel, always in the middle of the afternoon. They tell people at work they're visiting clients or vendors. I checked. There are no clients in that area. Laura paused, then added, I also looked into Damien. He's not gay, Victor. He has a girlfriend named Julia. They've been together for 2 years. She doesn't know anything. Victor stared at the photos, one after another. His marriage, his trust, his entire life, captured in clear, undeniable images. He didn't cry. He just felt a cold, controlled anger settle in his chest. Elena hadn't just betrayed him. She'd manipulated him. She'd turned the situation against him, making him question his own sanity, accusing him of being insecure and controlling, lying outright about Damien being gay. She'd made Victor the villain while she was the guilty one. That manipulation hurt more than the betrayal itself. Victor thanked Laura, paid the remaining fees, and took the folder. He drove home on autopilot, his mind racing. He needed to confront Elena, but he needed to do it the right way. That night, he acted as if nothing had happened. He had dinner with the family, helped Sophia with her homework, watched TV beside Elena as usual. She was distracted on her phone, quietly laughing at a message. Probably from Damien. Victor watched her, and for the first time in weeks, he felt no doubt. Only clarity. The following Thursday, Victor waited until Sophia was asleep. It was nearly 9 p.m. Elena was in the living room on the sofa, scrolling on her tablet. Victor walked in with the brown folder in hand and sat in the armchair across from her. His heart pounded, but his voice came out calm and controlled. Elena, I need to talk to you about Damien. Elena looked up from her tablet, and Victor saw immediate irritation cross her face. She sighed loudly, dramatically. Seriously, Victor? Again? I thought we'd moved past this. He's just my friend. My best friend at work. You're being completely ridiculous. She set the tablet aside and crossed her arms. This is turning into an obsession. You need help. I'm not going to sit here and listen to these baseless accusations every time you feel insecure. Victor didn't answer right away. He simply opened the brown folder, slowly, almost ritualistically. He took the first photo and placed it on the coffee table between them. It was the one of Elena and Damien having lunch, hands touching. Elena glanced at it, frowning in confusion. Victor placed the second photo. Elena and Damien in the parking lot, close together. Elena paled slightly, but said nothing. Victor placed the third photo. The two arriving at the motel. Elena froze. Victor placed the fourth photo. The two kissing. Elena stopped breathing. Victor placed the fifth photo. The two entering room 17. The sixth photo. The two leaving, 2 hours later. Elena stared at the photos like she was witnessing a car crash. Her eyes widened, her face drained of color, her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. She tried to speak, but only a choked noise escaped. Then the tears came, fast, uncontrollable, rolling down her cheeks. She covered her face with her hands, shoulders shaking. Victor waited. He didn't feel pity. He felt a cold, calculating clarity that surprised even him. Victor, I can explain, she tried, voice breaking between sobs. Victor cut her off, his voice low but sharp. Explain what, exactly? That you called me insecure when I was absolutely right? That you accused me of being controlling when I was just seeing the truth? That you lied about Damien being gay to make me look foolish? Victor leaned forward, eyes locked on her. You didn't just betray me, Elena. You manipulated me. You turned the situation against me, made me question my own perception of reality, made me feel guilty for trusting my instincts. That's what hurts the most. Elena was sobbing uncontrollably now, trying to speak between gasps. It was a mistake. I don't know what happened. I was confused, he gave me attention. Victor raised his hand, silencing her. No. It wasn't a mistake. It was multiple conscious choices. You chose to go out with him. You chose to lie to me. You chose to go to that motel. Not once, Elena. 3 times in the last 10 days. How many times before that? Elena didn't answer, just kept crying. Victor stood up, gathered the photos, and put them back in the folder. I'll sleep in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow, you'll leave this house. I've already contacted a lawyer. The divorce papers will be ready next week. Elena looked up, desperate. Victor, please, can't we talk about this? Think about Sophia. I made a mistake, but I love you. Victor looked at her with an expression that mixed disappointment with something close to pity. You don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have done this. And as for Sophia, I'll do everything to protect her from this situation, starting with making sure she doesn't grow up thinking this kind of behavior is acceptable. He turned and walked upstairs, leaving Elena alone in the living room with her tears and her choices. In the days that followed, Victor moved like a surgeon. He wasn't interested in public drama or explosive revenge. He wanted justice, clarity, and protection for Sophia. But he also believed the truth needed to be known. Through Laura Chen, he got Julia's contact, the girlfriend of Damien. They met for coffee. Julia was a young woman, maybe in her 30s, a grade school teacher, with an open, gentle face. When Victor showed her the photos, she reacted with a mix of shock and deep sadness that went beyond the betrayal itself. I knew something was off, Julia said, her voice trembling. He was distant, always on his phone, always making excuses. But I trusted him. What a fool I was. Victor shook his head. No, you weren't a fool. You trusted. And they abused that trust. Both of them. Julia looked at the photos again, then at Victor. What are you going to do? Victor took a deep breath. I'm getting a divorce. I'm fighting for primary custody of my daughter. And I'm making sure this doesn't stay hidden. I won't spread it publicly, but I won't protect them from the natural consequences. Julia nodded. I won't either. I work at the same company. I'm going to HR. And she did. Armed with the same photos Victor had, Julia went to the company's human resources department and filed a formal complaint. Damien and Elena had violated clear company policies, undisclosed romantic relationship between employees, use of work hours for personal matters, and potentially using company resources to cover up personal meetings by falsely claiming client visits. HR launched an internal investigation. Within a week, both were called in for separate meetings. The evidence was undeniable. Damien was fired for cause. Elena received a 30-day unpaid suspension and a permanent formal warning on her file. Her reputation at work was destroyed. Colleagues who once respected her now avoided her. She became the subject of hallway gossip, the example of what not to do. Victor hired Rebecca Silva, a family law attorney known for being relentless but fair. He presented all the photographic evidence, Laura Chen's detailed report, and even Julia's written statement confirming the pattern of lies. Rebecca smiled slightly when she saw the dossier. This is solid. Very solid. In Texas, proven adultery can significantly impact asset division and custody. Elena's going to struggle to argue against this. And she was right. During divorce negotiations, Elena tried to argue for shared custody and equal asset division. Rebecca presented the evidence methodically. Elena had neglected her responsibilities as a mother during the affair, frequently leaving Sophia with babysitters while she was with her lover. She'd lied repeatedly, showing a lack of integrity. She'd used marital funds to pay for motel stays. The judge, a middle-aged man with a stern expression, looked at the evidence, then at Elena with clear disapproval. He granted Victor primary custody of Sofia, with Elena entitled to supervised visitation at first, expanding to alternating weekends after 3 months of stable behavior. The house, which had been in both names, was awarded to Victor with the condition that he buy out Elena's share, at a reduced valuation due to the circumstances. Elena was also held responsible for half of Victor's legal fees, as her conduct had caused the divorce. It was a clear victory for Victor, not out of revenge, but simply because the law and the truth were on his side. 8 months passed. Victor found a new rhythm. He woke early, made breakfast for Sofia, took her to school, worked on his architectural projects with renewed focus, picked Sofia up in the afternoon, they had dinner together, did homework, and spent evenings talking about their days. Sofia, initially confused and sad about the separation, began to thrive again. She asked about her mother sometimes, and Victor always answered honestly, in age-appropriate terms, "Mom and Dad couldn't stay married anymore, but we both love you very much." He never spoke badly of Elena in front of Sofia, though internally he carried the hurt. But the hurt was fading, slowly replaced by a sense of relief and clarity. One Saturday afternoon, Victor took Sofia to the mall to buy school supplies. They were in the notebook section when Victor saw her. Elena was across the store, alone, idly looking at a shelf of pens. She looked different, thinner, with deep shadows under her eyes that makeup couldn't fully hide. Her hair, once always perfectly styled, was tied in a simple, careless ponytail. She wore plain clothes, nothing like the elegant outfits she used to wear for work. She seemed smaller somehow, diminished. Elena looked in their direction and froze. For a moment, their eyes met. Victor saw recognition, then sadness, then something that looked like shame. She walked hesitantly toward them. Sofia, distracted choosing a pencil case, didn't notice. Elena stopped a few steps away, hands nervously clasped. "Hi, Victor," she said, voice low and hesitant. Victor nodded politely. "Elena." Awkward silence. Then Elena looked at Sofia and smiled, but it was a sad smile. "She's grown so much." Victor nodded. "She's growing fast." More silence. Elena took a deep breath and looked at Victor again. I wanted to apologize. For real. For what I did. For how I treated you. You were right all along, and I ruined everything." Her voice cracked slightly. "I lost everything. My job, my reputation, my family. Damien left me the moment everything came out. He went back to Julia, begged for forgiveness, and she took him back. And I was left alone with the consequences." Tears began to form in her eyes. "I know you don't owe me anything, but I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. Really sorry." Victor looked at her for a long moment. He didn't feel anger. He didn't feel satisfaction. He just felt a certain neutrality, an emotional distance he hadn't known he was capable of. "I accept your apology, Elena. And I hope you find a way to rebuild your life better." He paused, then continued. "But what happened between us can't be undone. You didn't just betray me. You made me question my own perception of reality. You manipulated me. And that isn't something you forgive easily." Elena nodded, tears now streaming freely. I know. Victor looked at Sofia, who had finally picked a pencil case and was running toward him. "Dad, look what I chose." Sofia held up the case excitedly. Then she saw Elena and her smile faltered. "Hi, Mom." Elena knelt down, trying to smile through her tears. "Hi, my love. What a nice case." Sofia gave a half smile and moved closer to Victor, holding his hand. The message was clear. Victor looked at Elena one last time. "Good luck, Elena. Really. He put his hand on Sophia's shoulder, and they walked toward the checkout. Elena stood where she was, alone in the store aisle, watching them walk away. Victor didn't look back. He didn't feel the need. His life was moving forward, with clarity and purpose. Sophia was happy and safe. He had his dignity and his peace of mind. Elena would live with her choices and their consequences. And as he walked hand in hand with his daughter, Victor realized he hadn't just survived the betrayal. He'd come out stronger, more aware, more confident in who he was. The architecture of his life had been torn down, but he'd rebuilt it, this time on a foundation that was stronger, more honest, more true. And that was the victory that truly mattered. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.